Jon-Erik Hexum, one of the most incredibly handsome men of the 80s. He had everything: a model face, piercing blue eyes, a razor-sharp jawline, tall frame, muscular build, and an incredible hot deep voice that made him even more unforgettable. He looked like he was sculpted to be famous. He was both a model and an actor, the kind of guy who didn't even need a line to steal the whole scene. And just when his career was taking off, just when it felt like nothing could stop him, everything came crashing down. Jon-Erik died at just 26 years old, right in the middle of his prime. Not because of drugs or a Hollywood scandal, but because of a joke, a split-second decision he made on set that turned fatal. So what really happened to Jon-Erik Hexum? And how did one of the most promising stars of the 80s vanish overnight? Let's rewind. Jon-Erik Hexum was born on November 5, 1957, in Englewood, New Jersey. His dad, Thorleif Andreas Hexum, was a Norwegian immigrant, and his mom, Greta Olivia Paulsen, was American-born but also of Norwegian descent, originally from Minnesota. He had an older brother named Gunnar, and after their parents split when Jon-Erik was just 4, their mom raised the boys on her own in the quiet suburb of Tenafly, New Jersey. It wasn't an easy ride. Greta worked 2 jobs just to keep the family afloat. But even with the financial stress, she never let her kids miss out on creativity and culture. Jon-Erik once said in an interview, "She was wonderful when we were growing up. Somehow she found money to buy us a piano. We got to go to the theater periodically, and I took singing and dancing lessons." That says a lot about the kind of home he grew up in, tight on money, but rich in support. At Tenafly High School, he really stood out. He wasn't just athletic or just artistic, he was both. He played in the school marching band and even performed in the 1973 Rose Parade in Pasadena. By senior year, he became drum major and made school history as the first male cheerleader. He acted in plays like Carousel and even landed a lead role in The Pajama Game. And he was also senior class president. This guy didn't just check the boxes, he was the boxes. After high school, he started college at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, studying biomedical engineering. He was brainy too, but later transferred to Michigan State University. There, he switched majors to political philosophy and somehow still managed to juggle side gigs as a radio DJ and stage actor in college productions. He even played football for the MSU Spartans in 1978. He graduated with a degree in political philosophy, but deep down, acting was always the goal. Physically, he kept himself in top shape his whole life. He'd been playing sports since he was a kid. Football, soccer, wrestling, and swimming. He lifted weights regularly and stuck to a gym routine even after hitting Hollywood. 3 workouts a week, no excuses. Before the fame, he did every kind of odd job just to survive. Driving taxis, working as a nightclub doorman, scrubbing floors as a carpet cleaner, and even waiting tables. He once joked that he could scrub a toilet better than most people in Hollywood. That kind of self-deprecating humor made him instantly likable. But all that hustle finally paid off in 1983 when he landed his breakout role in the TV movie The Making of a Male Model, starring opposite Joan Collins. Collins was already a huge star thanks to Dynasty, so this was a big deal. Hexum earned $50,000 for the part, and the exposure skyrocketed his profile. People couldn't stop talking about that face. But it wasn't just looks, he had natural on-screen presence, something you can't teach. Still, Jon-Erik was way more than just a pretty face, he was a legit musician. He played the piano, guitar, and drums. That early encouragement from his mom clearly stuck with him. And off-camera, he was full of surprises. He absolutely loved animals, volunteered at shelters, rescued strays, and said more than once that if acting didn't work out, he might have opened a sanctuary for abused animals. That's who he really was. He also had a playful side. He was known for cracking jokes and pulling harmless pranks. Like the time he swapped a co-star's shampoo with whipped cream. He was the kind of guy everyone wanted around, fun, but never obnoxious. When he wasn't working, he loved being outdoors. Hiking, camping, fishing, anything that got him out of the Hollywood bubble and into nature. He'd take solo trips just to recharge in the mountains. Even with the fame rolling in, Jon-Erik stayed grounded. He never lost sight of where he came from or the people who supported him. He made time for fans, signed autographs, and quietly supported causes he cared about: children's hospitals, organ donation, and animal welfare. He wasn't just good-looking, he was good-hearted. Athletic, artistic, thoughtful, funny, and incredibly charismatic. Jon-Erik Hexum left a mark on everyone who met him, and even decades later, his story still sticks with people. Because it wasn't just the way he looked, it was the way he lived. Jon-Erik Hexum wasn't just handsome, he looked like he walked straight out of a casting director's dream. He stood at a solid 6 feet 1 inch, with a tall athletic frame that made him a perfect fit for modeling and those action-packed roles TV loved in the 80s. Broad shoulders, razor-sharp jawline, piercing eyes, he had that classic American heartthrob look down to a science. He was basically the real-life version of a movie poster. Right after graduating from Michigan State University, Jon-Erik didn't waste any time. A few days later, he packed his bags and made the big move to New York in 1980. The dream is acting, the reality is cleaning apartments to make rent while trying to get his foot in the door. Classic starving artist grind. Then came a lucky break, or maybe fate, when he crossed paths with Bob LeMond. This wasn't just any manager. LeMond had previously worked with John Travolta, so he knew star quality when he saw it. And with Hexum, he saw it instantly. LeMond told him to head west. Hollywood was where he needed to be. So in September 1981, Jon-Erik moved to Los Angeles to audition for the film Summer Lovers. He didn't land the part, Peter Gallagher ended up getting it, but people noticed his potential. That raw mix of looks, charm, and quiet intensity wasn't easy to forget. Not long after, in 1982, he got his first major break. He was cast as the lead in the NBC adventure series Voyagers, playing Phineas Fogg, a time-traveling swashbuckling hero with a heart of gold. The concept was super creative, but unfortunately it aired opposite 60 Minutes, which basically steamrolled anything in its time slot. Voyagers only lasted one season, but it was enough. Hollywood had taken notice. Then came the making of a male model in 1983. Hexum starred opposite Dynasty icon Joan Collins in a TV movie produced by Aaron Spelling. The film was a ratings hit, landing in the top 10 the week it aired. Hexum had several shirtless scenes, and just like that, he became one of TV's hottest new stars, literally and figuratively. But fame wasn't always comfortable. Looking back on the project, he said, it turned out to be a lot more exploitative than I anticipated. I didn't realize how they were going to package the show, how many scenes were going to be shirtless for no apparent reason. Still, the exposure helped push his career forward. In 1984, he guest starred in ABC's drama Hotel, playing Prince Eric, a fairy tale role opposite Emma Samms. It was another heartthrob moment, but one that gave him more range to work with. October 12, 1984 started like any other day on the set of Cover Up. The cast and crew were filming the 7th episode of the series, titled Golden Opportunity, inside Stage 18 at the 20th Century Fox lot. That day, Jon-Erik Hexum was supposed to shoot a scene where his character loads cartridges into a .44 Magnum revolver. For the sake of realism, the prop department brought in an actual working firearm, loaded with blanks. As sometimes happens on sets, the scene wasn't quite clicking. The director wasn't satisfied with the master shot, so filming got delayed, and then it got delayed again. Anyone who's worked on a production knows, waiting around in costume, under hot lights, with nothing to do wears you down pretty quickly. Jon-Erik, who was known for being energetic, playful, and always cracking jokes, was growing restless. Trying to stay upbeat, he reportedly turned to some nearby crew and said, half laughing, "Can you believe this crap?" It was his way of blowing off steam. The boredom had officially set in. Then, trying to lighten the mood even more, and not realizing the risk, Jon-Erik started goofing around with the revolver. He began pretending to play Russian roulette. He took the gun, emptied all the chambers except one, spun the cylinder, held it to his right temple, and pulled the trigger. No one expected it to go off. But it did. The blank fired, and even though there was no bullet, the muzzle blast was incredibly powerful. That's something a lot of people don't realize. Blanks are still dangerous at close range. They contain gunpowder and create a high-pressure blast when triggered. At point-blank range, that pressure can be deadly. In Jon-Erik's case, it was. The force of the blast fractured his skull and sent a piece of bone, about the size of a quarter, deep into the center of his brain. Contrary to rumors, it wasn't the blank itself that pierced his skull. It was the shockwave and the bone fragment that did the damage. He collapsed immediately. He reportedly lost several pints of blood before paramedics could even arrive. It was chaos. He was rushed by ambulance to Beverly Hills Medical Center, where Dr. David Ditzworth led a 5-hour emergency surgery to try and save him. But the trauma to his brain was just too severe. Despite everything the medical team did, the injury was irreversible. Jon-Erik was placed on life support. 6 days later, on October 18, 1984, he was declared brain dead. He was only 26 years old. The news was heartbreaking. One moment, he was a rising star on the cusp of something big. The next, he was gone. And the accident wasn't just tragic, it sparked serious conversations within Hollywood about on-set safety, especially when it comes to handling firearms. Jon-Erik Hexum had signed a California organ donor card long before his accident. So when the time came, his mother made the brave and selfless decision to honor that wish. His heart was transplanted into a 36-year-old Las Vegas man, at California Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco. His kidneys went to 2 people, a 5-year-old boy in critical condition, and a 43-year-old grandmother of 3 who had waited 8 years for a match. His corneas helped restore sight to a 66-year-old man and a young girl. Donated skin was even used to treat a 3-year-old boy with severe 3rd-degree burns. Even in death, Jon-Erik was giving. Afterward, his body was flown back to Los Angeles. He was cremated at Grandview Crematory in Glendale, and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean near Malibu by his mother, a quiet, peaceful goodbye in a place he loved. At the time, his estate was estimated to be worth $255,000. His death was officially ruled an accidental shooting. But behind the headlines, those who knew him personally said there was more to the story. In the final weeks of his life, Jon-Erik had been under intense pressure. His girlfriend at the time, Elizabeth, said he was very stressed, more stressed than I remember him ever being. He just wanted things to move so quickly. And he was in such a rush that he didn't even get to enjoy his life. The ambition itself is what actually killed him. Jon-Erik also had a fascination with guns, something that made people on set uneasy. His cover-up co-star, Jennifer O'Neill, had accidentally shot herself 2 years earlier and often warned him to be more careful. According to author Douglas Snoffer, even the show's producer Glenn Larson said that Jon-Erik insisted on using the .44 Magnum for authenticity, one of the most powerful handguns in the world. Elizabeth remembered him as athletic, playful, and always acting like a big kid. She added he was very accident-prone anyway, always getting a cut or a scrape. So when I heard he got hurt, I never thought it would have been life-threatening, not in a million years. Jon-Erik Hexum wasn't just another handsome face. He was one of the most breathtakingly good-looking men to ever step in front of a camera. That rare kind of handsome that looked almost unreal, like he walked out of a movie before even being cast in one. A chiseled face, those attractive blue eyes, a voice that could melt you, and a smile that made you stop and stare. He wasn't just handsome, he was unforgettable. He had that rare mix of movie star looks and boy-next-door charm that made people fall in love with him instantly. It's heartbreaking how fast it all ended. He had everything. The charm, the look, the momentum, and then just like that, it was over. Sometimes it feels like the most beautiful people carry the heaviest stories. It actually reminds me a lot of Vasily Stepanov. Another insanely attractive guy whose life took a painful turn.